Welcome to the Second Syndicate. I'm Teddy Collins. Tonight we bring a candidate forged by elite military experience, football grit at CSU, and a fight to reshape Colorado's future. I'm joined by Alicia Garcia, my lovely co-host. Ready for a loaded night, Alicia?
Heck yes, always.
All right.
We're really excited to be back. If you guys haven't noticed, we have changed the schedule of our show. So we are going to every other week to Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Obviously, it's Wednesday and it's 6 p.m. on YouTube. You can also catch us on X America News. Shout out to them, and tune in on Sundays for that show. So we have Josh Griffin here. We are very excited to have him. He is a friend of a friend, and he is also running for governor of Colorado, which is, we are desperate to somebody in that office to be actually worthwhile. So welcome, Josh. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.
Let's dive right in. I'm sure that we have, how long are we going for tonight? 90 minutes?
90 minutes.
We have a lot of things that we want to cover. So we're just going to bring the questions. So first of all, again, thank you for having us. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, this is always the part that is kind of rough for me, but let's have a stab at it. So, born and raised in Houston, Texas, from a military family. Very proud to say that. Played football, Texas, that's how it is. From there, joined the military. I was blessed to assess and be part of the 160th SOAR, Nightstalkers. From there, I did about almost 15, almost 10 years in that one, and bounced around a couple other special operation units, including one here in Fort Carson, 10th Special Forces Group, where I served as the EMS, NCYC, and very other positions.
I have no idea what that means.
I'm a nerd. I'm a physical nerd, right?
Okay.
So I can carry a gun, I can carry a radio. So that's what I do, right? And for that one, I really assisted the Green Berets and anything when it came to like UAV operations, comms, signals, stuff like that. So that was my role in that one. And from there, got accepted to a program with the CSU, tried out, played football. Oh, yeah, became the oldest one, whatever. Played football at CSU, retired as an infantry officer, started my own company. Thank God, successful, especially in this type of climate and economy. But more importantly, man, I mean, most importantly, I'm a father. I have a beautiful 7-month-old baby girl. She's perfect. I have a wild man, a 2-year-old wild man who teaches me everything today about patience, love, and understanding that, hey, he was like that when you were his age. And honestly, another chance to relive my childhood and just see him grow. In a broader sense, I'm a protector, I'm a provider. Somebody who claims and definitely, I believe, has evidence of being a critical thinker and a free thinker. And I love to protect, and that's why I'm here.
Well, we love that mindset. So you have sanctuary here. We always talk about the defensive and the protector mindset here. So welcome to the show, Teddy.
Excellent. Well, Josh, I know that you've served in the military. You served in combat tours, if I'm remembered correctly. What is there anything in these high stake environments that I guess shaped your entry into politics? Is there any moments that you may have experienced in combat that shaped you as a leader today? Is there anything that you're willing to talk about in that aspect?
Yeah. I'm not gonna talk too much about my career and the stuff I did overseas.
Sure.
I'm one of the few that believes in being a quiet professional, right? Number one, I got to serve with giants. I got to serve with Silver Star winners, Medal of Honor guys that they wrote a Medal of Honor citations for them. Pray to get them one day. The biggest thing in the military is that we learn how to strip ourselves of our own selfishness and learn how to work together. And what that entails is getting rid of your own dogma, not sweating the small stuff and just keeping your eyes on the mission. Something about mortality and being faced with it, you really, like if you ever got I put it like this, get into a car wreck or even get close to a car wreck. The last thing you're thinking about is how Starbucks ran out of caramel. right?
That's true.
Or somebody said, I like this type of fringe politics. The first thing you do when you get out of that situation, you want to be next to your loved ones. And
Yes.
so that's the type of mentality, that's the ethics that we bring, I believe, in the military to politics. And, in the spirit of, I guess, tags or whatever, I mean, that's why, Josh and I, we came up with, foxhole politics, because if I say I'm a moderate, then they say that, oh, you don't believe in anything. If I say I'm a conservative, they say that, oh, you just want to go back to the days where a certain group was better than another group. If I say I'm a liberal, then they say that I want everything under the sun to happen and be free and carefree, right? Well, here's the truth: we are all liberals in our own way, in some facet or form. We're all conservative in other things. We're moderates in other things. And because of how nasty we made politics, unfortunately, it's almost like you have to come up with a different name to
Yeah,
show who you are and what you're about. And foxhole politics for us encompasses everything that we believe in.
that makes sense. No one fits into those two perfect categories of Republican or Democrat. Those parties don't identify with the majority of Americans. Most Americans do fall or take something from both sides in most cases. 100% with
As
you on
do
that.
we. As do we. Awesome. So we won't ask you to share anything that you don't want to share. We want you to feel
Absolutely.
in a position of respect here. But was there ever a time that where your decisions, maybe in the military or in your life, that directly impacted lives, and how is that brought you into being the leader that you are today, and hopefully was something that inspired you to take a role of change, hopefully in the governor's seat?
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of one singular moment that made me want to get into politics, to be honest with you. Um, Over the course of my career, one thing that, was always something that was just, hitting me every time was stop kicking the can. There's sometimes in the military where you get a troubled soul that joins the military, and a lot of us are troubled in our own way. What some people will do is say, you know what, you're not working here. Let me go send you somewhere else, or let me kick you out, instead of owning the burden of being a leader. And you know what? There is one particular case. There was a young soldier. He made bad mistakes, and he was actually in my first command. Now, thank God I wasn't a green lieutenant during this time. By this time I had like 15, 16 years in as I'm like old lieutenant, right? I think I was a first lieutenant at the time. But anyway, first command, he's literally like getting shipped out. Like, these people are treating him horrible. I mean, Article 15, everything. And I said to him, and I told him, I was like, look, bro, you got 6 months, right, to just get your ish together. And then, we go to the review board. Then if you need me to speak up for you, I will. Right. And I said, but I won't do this unless you do everything I tell you to do. And you do it, with a smile on your face. So for 6 months, man, this young man, he came in an hour early. So we would come in an hour early, and I would do PT with him to get him in shape. Then we would do PT with the company. He did all the mundane tasks. He stayed late, and I would do things on purpose. This is test his mettle. We fast forward, we get to his hearing where they're going to kick him out, and I stood for him, and something that we forget as leaders and as people, we need to learn how to forgive, and we need to learn how to, it's not only good for us to forgive, but we also have to help usher that person in the way that they can actually understand, right? And it dawned on me in that time is that if we kick this soldier out the military, we have lost one important thing, and that is a testimony of what can happen if and only if I actually do the right thing. Everybody knows the testimony if I do the wrong thing, but what happened to the testimonies of doing the right thing? So I'm proud to say he's a staff sergeant now. I'm proud to say that, we saw other people, that saw his example and said, well, if this dude can do it, and it's funny, even in the higher ranks, they were like, if that guy could go from there to there, then I got to look inside myself. What am I slacking on? And so I bring that spirit into politics, and as in, hey man, just because we don't agree with one another, let me find something that you and I can find some kind of relative with, grab hold to that. And then instead of telling you, haha, look at me, I'm better than you, come follow me, I'll just say, hey man, let's come up together and let's follow a code of ethics that get us both to where we really want to belong to. And that's what we really want to do in Colorado and just stop all of this divisiveness.
I agree. I agree, and I think one of the things that Teddy and I both see when we're down at the Gold Dome is there's such a party loyalty rather than a loyalty to the people and to the well-being and the oath.
Yeah, I'll reiterate on that. I won't mention the senator's name, but there was one senator, this legislator that we met with, and he said, I don't want to vote for 003, but I have to because my party is essentially forcing me. I won't call him out because we had some conversations on some other 2A topics in which
He's a Democrat.
yeah, it's a Democrat, but he
Republicans
essentially
do
stated
that.
that he had to toe the party line. We'll leave it at that. And that's not the way things should be. We should have mavericks in politics. We should have people that are willing to break with their party when they know it's the right thing to do or their conscience tells them to do that.
Without worrying about if they're going to be reelected. If they're not doing their job, they will
And he
not
wasn't
be
even an
reelected.
electee. He was an appointee. That
Oh,
might
yeah.
narrow it down a little bit more, but yeah.
I'm trying to help you give it some discernment there.
So this brings me to my next question, and this will be our last question on the military side of things because I want to get into some of your other background as well. All of it's really impressive, but political leadership often lacks accountability. In the military, when someone messes up, people perish, people die, people get hurt, the mission has failed. Do you plan to bring that level of real world responsibility to the governor's office? And if yes, how so? How do you plan to make that office accountable, which we haven't seen here in the state of Colorado in many years?
I mean, the answer is, of course, yes. Honestly, how? I mean, by breathing. It's just something that we do innate. Being in the military for as long as we have, first and foremost, Lord willing, when we win. The first thing, there's only two groups, maybe three technically groups of people that I want in my administration. And that is veterans, business owners, and athletes. Why? Because they understand teamwork. They understand sacrificing for the greater good. Whether you're a soldier, a business person, or an athlete, you understand, it's not the win that makes you an athlete, a business person, or a veteran. It's falling in love with the process, the 5 o'clock in the morning wake ups, the staying late, the sacrifice for your teammates, coworkers, or battle buddies. It's that type of spirit that we want to bring into Colorado, and the spirit of, hey, I got your six. Or for those who don't know what it means, I got your back. And that's what we really need to do. And, speaking of that, legislator, here's a problem. When the donor class or the party takes over the people, you get propaganda. Politics should be about protecting people through prudent policies, not getting into political positions through parties.
Agreed. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Here.
Before we move on to the next section, I do want to ask you a little bit. I know you played football for CSU, and from my understanding, you were the oldest player. Is that were you still active when you were playing, or a reservist? Or
Very much so.
wow, so talk about responsibility. You know how to handle.
Eye roll ever just now.
What's that?
He gave you the hardest eye roll I've ever seen
I
in
just
my
wanted to bring
life.
it up because it's impressive as hell. The fact that you served your country, you served multiple tours overseas, you came back, you finished your education, you still played college ball at an older age, from my understanding, holding the record.
30,
I mean, we should get you in the
31.
Guinness book, bro.
Yeah.
No, it's impressive, and all while still serving your country. It's amazing, man. Thank you for your service. Thank you for everything you've done. It's impressive
I
as
went
hell.
to see you, so I knew there had to be something about you. I'm like, okay, that makes him human. He does make mistakes.
Yeah, it's okay. It's no, it was a blessing. The greatest thing there wasn't the games or anything. It was talking to those young men, understanding what they're going through, being a coach in the locker room, not even a coach, but being a lot of times being a father figure. You know,
100%. Because you were older than most of your teammates, they probably relied on you, looked at you for
oh yeah,
your wisdom.
yeah. I mean, even I mean, at one point they could tell you I had like 3 or 4 people living with me, and I was just pretty much taking care of them. And we don't talk enough about how hard it is to be a so-called student athlete
Oh yeah.
in this country right now. And it was a blessing because it's funny. Never. They say you want to make God laugh. Tell him your plan.
Yeah.
You know, and I look back at it now and connecting with other voters is that working, playing, and living with those young men and women, because there's a lot of women in the football programs as well.
Sure.
I got to see firsthand what these kids, now young men and women, are facing each and every day. And it's not something I just heard, it's something that I saw and lived amongst. So it was a blessing.
Wow. That's awesome. Bro.
Wonderful.
That's awesome. Well, before we get into our next segment, little promo here for the Second Syndicate. Before we dive deeper, guys and gals, all of you that are viewing us tonight, make sure you hit that subscribe, that like button, ring that bell on YouTube, and make sure you're following us on the Second Syndicate YouTube channel, our new YouTube channel. Everybody that likes, subscribes, and rings the bell on that Second Syndicate YouTube channel will be entered for a chance to win a Springfield Echelon, which we will be giving out here come September. So definitely make sure you like and subscribe to the new Second Syndicate YouTube channel, and you might have a chance to win that prize.
So if you also go and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, X, every single one of those follows gets you an entry into the giveaway. So if you are following us on all platforms, you are more likely to win. So head over to all of those platforms, subscribe, and support us.
Everywhere you follow us on, everywhere you subscribe, gets you an additional entry.
Awesome. So where are you telling me to go? You want me to come all the way down here?
That's where we're at.
Okay. Awesome. Okie dokie.
Got to keep on
Teddy's
schedule.
in he thinks he's my dad today mode. He's like, hello, Alicia, where are you at? So let's get down to the brass tacks here. We are a Second Amendment organization. We talk about guns. We talk about arming civilians, and we know for a fact that we know what happens when the government disarms its citizens, both abroad and through legislation here at home. Colorado is one of the biggest states under attack when it comes to gun control. We're actually third in the nation right now for gun control laws, and also second in the nation for violent crime. So
And we're outpacing other states that are ahead of us.
by strides these days. So, Josh, what does the Second Amendment mean to you personally as a father, not only as a veteran, but as a father figure, a leader, and as an American citizen?
An inherited right. Something that, I mean, definitely I grew up in Texas, so it's something that I never thought about. It's something that always existed, like you have a right to a lawyer. That's something that I never even thought about until coming to this state and finding out like I have to wait 3 days in order to pick up my weapon after purchasing it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what the heck does that got to do with anything? I mean, do I got to wait 3 days to go buy a kitchen knife at Walmart? You know what I mean? I can kill just as many people with a kitchen knife, probably more because you won't hear me.
And as we learned with Boulder, obviously that didn't deter the mass crime, the mass murder that occurred there. All he did was go out and find a bottle of whiskey.
I'm the plaintiff in Garcia versus Polis regarding that 3-day waiting period, everyone out there listening. So we have been fighting that since October 1st, 2023 with Rocky Mountain Gun Owners and our attorneys, Mountain States Legal. So if you guys want an update on that, it is very slow. We're waiting just to hear back from the courts. I have been deposed. I have answered every question they've asked me. But if you'd like to continue to support us, feel free to donate to the Second Syndicate. You can donate to Mountain States Legal and support that lawsuit, because we obviously believe that a right delayed is a right denied.
Absolutely. All right, Josh. So in Colorado, we now have, starting July 1st, essentially unelected bureaucrats at this new firearms dealer division that will be regulating gun shops, FFLs across the state of Colorado. Again, unelected officials appointed by God knows who. I think it's the governor or the governor's cronies, honestly, that gets to appoint these. And essentially it creates an extra level of bureaucracy, an extra level of red tape on the firearms industry here in Colorado, which is causing a lot of stores to actually leave the state. A lot of your home FFLs have shut up shop. A lot of your people that have been coming out for gun shows, bringing revenue and tax revenue to the state of Colorado have left and are not going to be doing that anymore. A lot of manufacturers have left. I mean, we saw this with Magpul in 2013 when they left to leave for Wyoming and Texas. They didn't want to deal with Colorado anymore. So is there anything that you could do as governor to rein in that division, to rein in who's appointed there, maybe the financing of that division or the appropriations of that division? What is something that you might be able to do when elected to rein in on the firearms dealer division?
Well, first and foremost, I have to actually look into weeds of it and see exactly what is prudent, what isn't, and anything that doesn't make sense, get rid of it immediately. I'm not for regulation at all. In fact, let's just talk about the economics, right? The total 2A industry, whether you're talking about firearms, hunting, any of the residual and rippling effects of firearms, it supports about almost close to $1.2 billion of our economy. And for anybody in Colorado who is tired of our taxes going up, you do realize with each infringement on our Second Amendment rights increases your property taxes, your state income taxes, your county taxes. I just bought a new cell phone today from Verizon, and paid it, traded off, everything's paid off, right? And you look around, you're like, how did my bill end up being $300, $400? Well, you got county tax, you got state tax, you got city tax, you got, I thought that was you tax. They got every kind of different taxes, right? And that's because what? Every time you overregulate and you start pushing out key members of your society, people have to pick up the slack. And so for even those who aren't really familiar with 2A or even understand it, I will say this, why this 2A means a lot to me. Number one, it was to prevent from having tyrannical government. That's number one, right? To protect yourself, right? If anybody comes into my home, I tell people all the time, a lock is not meant for a criminal. It's meant for an honest person.
That's right.
Because an honest person will go look at it and say, oh, can't go in and buy. And what does that mean? It means that no matter what zoning or regulations or laws you put in, it's never going to stop the criminals from being the criminals. But what's going to stop the criminals from being criminals is you have the ability to escalate force.
That's right.
And I try to tell people all the time, think about how many shooting incidents happen at gun shows.
They don't.
Exactly.
They don't.
Why? Everybody got guns.
That's right. In fact, if you look at the statistics of this, the majority of mass shootings that have occurred in the United States, and I mean the large majority,
98%.
minus ones or twosies, have happened in gun-free zones, places where law-abiding citizens, even if licensed, were restricted from carrying. I mean, we can go back to the UT Tower shooting and talk about that. I mean, the history is there. Gun-free zones only
Kill.
create unarmed individuals. It creates a hunting ground, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
They do. So go ahead.
Yeah. So I guess my next question would be would you be willing to bring the full weight of your power to veto as governor against the legislator on anything that threatens the Second Amendment in any way, even if it means constant warfare with the legislator?
Of course.
Okay. That's what I like to hear. That's what our viewers want to hear.
I'm really looking forward to seeing how this plays out, because we have a lot of really decent candidates, but we also have a lot of really serious opponents. And I get the impression from you that you also take that very seriously, and I get that vibe. So thank you for bringing that power to the table. Shout out to the Below Average Utah Dad. He is a friend of ours. He is in the chat. He just gave a super chat of $19.99.
Thank you, bro.
That's the year that I graduated. So right on. Thank you for that. We really appreciate the support. Speaking of, we appreciate the support. The Second Syndicate is being sponsored by Spartan Defense for an event here at Spartan Defense in Colorado Springs on July 4th, because we are patriots and we believe in celebrating the freedom of America. So the Second Syndicate is joining forces with Neon?
Neon's Barbershop. We're doing haircuts for heroes, which will be free haircuts for any veteran, any active duty individual that wants to come in and get a haircut. We'll also have live concerts with multiple bands going on in the parking lot. We're right across from the Rocky Mountain Vibes field, so we'll have a great viewing stage to see fireworks. We'll have inflatables, food trucks. All kinds of
Inflatables
things
is like
going
a
on in the
bouncy
parking
house for
lots,
kids.
all kinds of vendors. It's going to be a good time for the whole family to come on out. So if you're in the Colorado Springs area come July 4th, you're looking for something to do, you're looking for some camaraderie with other patriots, come out and join us here at the Spartan Defense parking lot. We're going to have a great time. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we're going
And
to
the
celebrate
second
America's
syndicate
birthday.
will be fundraising that day. So we will be serving alcoholic beverages. We're going to have beer. We're going to have liquor that we are going to be raising money for donations to help get us to DC. We have some legislators that we need to speak with, and we have some issues that we need to bring to the table. So help get the second syndicate to DC, donate to us, support us, come out and have a good time.
It's going to be awesome.
So back to you, Josh. Would you issue a Second Amendment sanctuary order? Is that something that you would consider doing? Because I don't know if I'm not sure if my politics are correct, but can the Attorney General be directed under your authority to refuse defending anti-gun laws in court
Oh, yeah.
if you were to get your position as governor?
Yeah, as governor, I will be working with the AG, which, is something that we also need to be talking about. We have to get the right AG in there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we don't
Because
want
the Democrats have already told you their plan, right? It's going to be about lawfare and who hates or loves Trump the most.
Yeah.
That's it. The people.
That's not going to progress our state. That's just going to increase our deficit, increase the amount of lawsuits that we enter into, and it's going to be bad for Colorado.
It's going to be awful
A
for
waste
Colorado.
of
We're
your
seeing the
tax
result of that now.
dollars.
It's going to be a waste of our tax dollars. Yes, sir.
And so anybody who's listening to this needs to understand this is like, yeah, the governor is important. But what is equally important in my estimate is the AG. And because we talk about everything that is on the fringe of the Constitution, right? Well, guess what? If you do not control the legislature, then you're going to have to go through the courts.
That's right.
And as far as I'm concerned, the court is supposed to be blind, right? So you should feel comfortable at least saying, hey, look, if this doesn't measure up to our legal system, which I get and hasn't been as full of fidelity and integrity in the last few years, but if we could bring back that honor and respect to our legal system and actually really measure what we do, I hope our people really understand one thing. You don't ever try to find a boss or even a partner who says, I'm good because I like somebody or I hate somebody, right? You want them because how much they love and care about you. And so when you're looking at these candidates, start looking at the people who are talking about you and not somebody else.
Agreed.
That's smart. Yeah. Run on actual policies that affect you and not on who's in the White House and trying to disrupt what's going on up there. Focus on Colorado. Focus on what's
You want his break. Pay attention to your own.
That's right.
So do you have people in mind, such as like pro 2A judges, department heads, legal counsel, that would help you implement more freedom-based policy that you have lined up? Or are you in the process of courting those individuals?
I got one better for you. We're looking at almost about 70 to 78 potential vacancies in the circuit court judges, Supreme Court judge positions, and other positions throughout the state. The next governor will be pivotal because they will be voting, they will be putting those people into those positions. And I can tell you right now, as governor, I'm not looking at, are you super conservative, are you Trump loving, or you Griffin loving? Do you or do you not honor the law? Do you or do you not honor the Constitution? And if you do, you will make the right decision. Those are the people that I'm looking for.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and that brings me to another point when it comes to the judges. The judges are important as well because if you look at Colorado and the fiscal situation we're in, Colorado is one of the most expensive states to be insured in, whether it be home insurance or car insurance, and it's because of frivolous lawsuits. It's because of people suing, and we need tort reform in the state of Colorado. We won't go too much into depth with that here, but insurance is ridiculous here compared to what it should be. I mean, we do have natural disasters that occur and things of that nature, but not as much as California, not as much as Texas with windstorm and things of that nature. We shouldn't have the rates that we do, and it comes from frivolous lawsuits. It's some of the highest claims as far as lawsuits are concerned. Some of the highest judgments have been given out here in the state of Colorado, which leads insurancers to pull out of the state and or raise their rates here in the state of Colorado. Crazy.
Speaking of insurance, We here at the Second Syndicate endorse firearms legal protection. If you guys are interested in self-defense insurance, please head to our links in our bio, head to our tap rack, and grab yourself some self-defense insurance from Firearms Legal Protection. One of the people that is the head attorney for Firearms Legal Protection
James T. Cook.
is also on the board of the Colorado Federal Firearms Licensee Association, to which my co-host and co-founder Teddy is the vice president. I am the director of public relations and communications for the Colorado Federal Firearms Licensee Association. So if I'm going to put my faith in making sure that I have a proper legal defense and counsel if I ever have to use my firearm or other methods to self-defense, I want the best legal counsel, and I know that James T. Cook is part of those people. So head over to Firearms Legal Protection in our links, shop from them, insure yourself. It's only, I believe $100 a year to insure yourself. That way you have legal counsel, and you're also supporting the Second Syndicate by protecting
Guys,
yourself.
as a former CCW instructor, someone who's taught firearms for many years, I have been an expert witness in several cases in which students have been sued in civil court. Having that legal protection specifically for the civil court side of things is huge. So definitely look into it. Having some form of legal protection, whether it be this program or another program, is better than nothing. And this program has near a perfect track record on the books.
Agreed.
They have, especially here in Colorado, with James as their lead attorney.
And
So check it out.
We sure do appreciate him. So you on your website, Josh, which is Joshua Griffin for Colorado.com, and that's a number 4co.com. So everybody please go over there and check out his website and support this man, and let's get somebody super excellent into office because Colorado needs him. So one of the things that we noticed that you said is you are running on results, not rhetoric, which, as I found, that was quite interesting. So what are your top 3 measurable priorities in your first 18 months as governor of Colorado?
Well, it's kind of like 1A and 1B, but the first one would be water. We need water in Colorado. The 1A would be the constitutional infringements. 2, definitely public safety. And 3, start attacking the housing crisis.
Agreed. Cost of living here in Colorado has gone through the roof. Housing crisis. I mean, you look at it. You know, we're from Texas originally, both of us.
Mm-hmm.
You look at what you can get for the average price of a home here in Colorado Springs in Texas. It's like getting a mansion. I mean, it's a huge difference, and it's gotten insane. I mean, the cost of rent, it affects everybody. It affects all the businesses. It affects our economy, because if it's not affordable for people to live, that means higher wages, which means increased cost on businesses, which means less profit, which means less reinvestment into the economy. So we see that, and so that's a huge one. If you can tackle that, if there's a way to attack that day one, brother.
That's very easy, actually. It's very easy. Number one, fight the legislatures right now that are whoring, the state to corporations in China. China owns almost, I think, 18,000 acres of land.
That's not in our interest. That's
That's
dangerous.
I mean, Vanguard, Blackwater, they own a whole bunch of, single family homes. They make regulations super hard. And so a lot of the things that we're running, I'm not going to give you no slogans. I'm not going to be like, we're going to do this and I'm going to fight on the mountaintop and all that kind of jazz. No, we're coming up with a pragmatic, responsible effort to help all Coloradans. Again, I'm not fighting to be your Republican Colorado governor. I'm fighting to be your governor. And I think we need to start understanding that. Like, I'm not trying to be your Republican governor. I'm trying to be your governor. And we need to understand that.
That's a wonderful way to look at it.
That's awesome. Absolutely. So day one, you're in office, pen hits the paper. What executive order are you signing first, and why? What's your very first one? I know I didn't prep you for this. So what do you think right off the bat, day one?
I think anybody who would tell you anything like that is a fool.
Okay.
Because you actually have to take a step back and look at your whole total sight picture.
Sure.
When you get to the target, right? Are you just going to pull, and then squeeze off around? No, you're going to do an assessment first, and then you're going to go ahead and take down range, right?
Absolutely.
And so I bring that type of understanding to the office. And so I'm not going to just tell you something so I can pander to somebody and make him feel like he's going to be our guy. No, that ain't me. I'm going to look at everything. And the first thing I'm going to do is look at my leadership. I'm gonna look at them. I'm gonna put them under a microscope. I'm gonna put the right people in there, try to kill as much committees as I can and replace it with directors so we have a single point of blame and a single point of praise. And we're going to take an educated and a regulated approach to protecting our people. We're not going to do it just off of the whim and off the hip. No, we're not doing that. We're going to really take an analytical approach to protecting our people.
I really appreciate that because that is kind of a trick question. And we wanted to see if it is truly about the mission. So thank you for
I'm married, so I'm used to the trick questions. So come on.
So before we aired today, you and I had a conversation, and you brought up something that I wasn't really aware of, the sunset clause. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and tell us what that could do for especially for the 2A with some of the laws that are on the books?
Oh, absolutely. So the Colorado very wisely back in the day created something called the Sunset Law. And pretty much what it is that a certain amount of years, right, you can go back and look at bills, laws, statutes, whatever you may have that is in circuit right now, and review them and bring them back into being a law, bill, statute, whatever it is. Well, guess what? As governor, you can go ahead and veto and destroy everything that comes on your desk, during that time period. So we have that we're working with, and that's another tool that we can get back some of our liberties that we were that was stolen from us in the last 16 years.
And I want to say you said 15 years is the
I'm not going to hold me on that one. I know 15, I think, is the top cap. I've seen also 5 and 10.
Okay.
So there, I have to go back and look at it. So don't hold me to that. But I know 15 years is definitely one of the time periods.
So to give an example for layman's terms here for our viewers, let's say magazine capacity bill passed in 2013 here in the state of Colorado. You effectively as governor could kill that bill by vetoing it via the sunset clause and kill it once and for all, where we would not have to worry about that anymore.
Dead on arrival.
Awesome. That's what I like to hear. That's what we need, because we've been fighting that in the court for quite a while and it hasn't been moving anywhere, and it's been since 2013. So maybe the stroke of a pen is what we need from you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Don't threaten me with a good time, because that sounds fabulous to me. So, is that what you want me to take over with this? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, go for it.
So, Colorado's legislature right now leans very, very hard left. We only have 22 Republicans in House and Senate representing Colorado right now. I personally don't believe that there should be a exorbitant balance of power. We need to have, or one party having power over another, and we need a dual representation. I would prefer more independents and libertarians in office, but nevertheless, this is what we're working with. What's your strategy to getting things done without selling out your values of the people who put you in office?
Strategy and well-planned execution. This administration, this year is a very pivotal year. I'm not going to say too much because it's OPSEC, and you don't want to give your enemy the keys to the kingdom, right?
Agreed.
But right now, we're working on some very tangible plans, and we are uniting with others that you would not think that we would unite with in order to flip both the House, state, Senate.
Wonderful.
There's a lot. I'll put it like this, y'all. The raw number state that we have about 23 to 25% is Republicans. The remaining is like another 28% Democrat. And in the middle, yeah. And so the reason why Republicans have not won anything, and I say anything because there's going to be somebody that comes on here and says, I've been fighting, and that's why you should vote for me, because I've been fighting. And I can tell you right now, I have not been in the legislature, but me and that person, we have the same amount of bills passed that we champion ourselves, which is 0. And so the question is, are you a fighter or are you a loser? Because at some point when you're a boxer and you say, I'm a boxer, but actually your record is 0 and 20, you can be like, you ain't boxing, bro. You're just a punching bag. And so we, the constitutionalists of the state, have become punching bags, is because, again, it's not the responsibility of the winner. That's their job, is to win. You don't blame the winner to win. That was their job. you blame the loser because they didn't prudently plan to win, right? And so when everybody says blame the Democrats, blame them, no, no, no. Look at yourself, look in the mirror, have some accountability, and say, hey, I'm the reason why we've been losing is because we don't know how to have a good message. We don't know how to get off a high horse, and we call everybody rhinos. Well, let me tell you something. There's something, I don't do nicknames and taglines, but I'll give you one, and it's called Chino, and that is Christian in name only. We have a lot of so-called Christians in the Republican Party that preach and get on a high horse, but then when you look at their lives, they're living total opposite. And so constituents are just like children. If you have any children and you ain't living right and you tell them to do something they're supposed to do, they're going to look at you like, well, you ain't doing it. So that's where we are right now. And so our whole idea, Josh and everybody else that's with us, we're not here as your Republican representatives. We're here as Coloradoans. We're here as the Coloradoan champions. And that's what we're here to do. And so that's how we're going to flip the house, by giving the people something to believe in again.
Absolutely.
Tangible. I appreciate it. Have you heard of the Liberty Scorecard in Colorado? So I was speaking with one of our senators not too long ago down
After that
at the
reaction, I
Gold
want to
Dome.
hear his thoughts. I'm curious.
Yeah. And they were talking to me about the Liberty Scorecard, and that if they tend to vote one way or another, that their party or the other party will attack them via their Liberty Scorecard. And this is something that should be feared as a legislator. Do you have anything to comment about that? Or how do we overcome these types of, grading scales?
Box
Ignore them.
I guess.
Just ignore them. I mean, the truth of the matter is Liberty Scorecard, but I'm sorry.
No, I know. I've seen some of the things that have caused people to have negative grades on those, and it's ridiculous, like being tougher on crime and things of that nature. I don't know who comes up with this stuff, but yeah.
Oh, I do actually, but I'm not going to air like that. But I will say this: instead of doing that, let's focus on community outreach cards. How many times have you raised money to feed food to feed the hungry? How many times have you raised or collected coats to feed the naked? How many times have you raised money to help someone pay their rent? Those are the scorecards that we should be creating and looking at, not these mundane, I want to be king of a graveyard scorecards.
Like a JFK scorecard, not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country, right?
Absolutely.
There you go.
Absolutely.
A conservative Democrat, by the way, just to put that out there.
I'll take conservative Democrat over some of the Republicans.
Hey, they existed at one point. Just saying.
They still do exist, by the way.
There are some out there. I know a few, but yeah.
I'd like to see more of them in office here in Colorado. That's a conversation that we have here amongst each other and our fellow political activists, is that I think sometimes we get really caught up on party affiliation rather than the moral fortitude and the moral compass that these people have. And we say it all the time. It's very difficult to get somebody who's a Republican in office in Denver just because there is such a loyalty to that party. Now, would I be opposed to helping get a Democrat in that seat that was very pro two-way and had very moderate and conservative values? I wouldn't care. It's not about party. It's about action and willing to be a representative of the people. And I think sometimes we have to get away from that two-paradigm debate.
Yeah, I think also, as far as Republicans are concerned, we need to take a hard look at our party going into this next election. We actually have a chance to take this governorship, and we need to think about not just the candidate that could win the primary, but the candidate that can win the general election. We need a candidate that can bring people together. I think you are definitely one of those front runners for that coalition that can bring people together, and that's what we need. We need that in Colorado. We need someone that can win the general and that can bring those independent voters, as you just said. Close to 50% of Colorado voters are identifying as independents. We need to bring those people to vote for you or for a candidate that can do that and that can defend liberty.
Let me correct you. Just one little thing you said.
Sure.
I am the only one that can win the general.
That's what I like to hear.
Only one
That's
that can
confidence.
win the general. And it's not even confidence, it's just common sense, because here's the thing. Doing something over and over and over again, expecting a different result, is the very definition of insanity.
It is, and we've
Same
done
as
it.
the same old tired people, right? They're never going to change. You know, even if they say the right thing, there's one person in the race that has plagiarized everything I said. You know, JL actually. So you know, if you know their initials, go ahead and do it. And there's other people as well. And my thing is, I'm not attacking them, but you said it yourself. We got to look at our own self. How can I tell you I can fix you or help you if I can't fix myself? And so, what we bring in our administration in this campaign is, number one, we actually look like the ages of the people that are affected by these bad policies. I'm 38 years old. I am a young father. I'm a house owner. I have 2 kids. You know, it's really hard to think that somebody that is in their 60s and 70s is going to care about 40 and 50 years from now versus
No.
somebody who's in
They're
their
already
late.
checked out. This is a retirement job for them.
Yeah.
This is your future. This is
And
you
nobody
building
talking
something
crap
for your
about that.
kids.
We love our elders. We love our elders. Thank you so much, right? But here's the thing: it's the time for you to step away and just be a Geppetto, give somebody words of wisdom, and let us actually do it. You know, here's some statistics for you: 90% of the wealth is owned by baby boomers and Gen Xers.
Mm-hmm.
90% of the debt is owned by the millennials.
That's right. They passed that
And
on.
we didn't create it. We did not create it. We're the generation that fought 3 wars. You're talking to a guy that has over from Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq. I mean, 14 deployments. I started my own company. I have multiple homes. So if I'm somebody who can't, and you know where I come from, third world Texas. I mean, it's the hood over there. You know what I mean? And I can give a little my Texas slang on time about, but I can go from there to where I am right now. And as far as I'm concerned, I think I'm the only candidate right now that actually signed checks on the front instead of the back. We are the only way that we can get there. And it's not by saying that we're better Republicans. No, we're just here to fight for all the good people.
That's right.
Democrats included.
We're more future
Wonderful.
oriented. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Wonderful.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah.
So, if you guys are out there listening, I just want to remind everyone that we indeed are a 501c4. So, we are a nonprofit that is here to support and defend the Second Amendment. We are not a political affiliation. We are a civil right. We are a human right. We do this on our own time and our own dime to make sure that the voices of the people are represented not only in legislature, but in media, in communities, in all these different avenues that we have. So if you would like to support the Second Syndicate, you could head over to the Bonfire store that we have created and buy some merch. You can get some cool Second Amendment t-shirts that we have created. You can get a shirt that says the Second Syndicate. It is at bonfire.com/store/the Second Syndicate. You can find that in the links in our tap rack links in our bio, as well as all of our platforms. So go grab one of our shirts and stand for liberty and support us. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Before we move on to the next segment and the next question, which I'm going to ask you here in a few minutes, Josh, something that helped us this last election, as far as Republicans are concerned, to pick up some seats in the House and to break that supermajority that the Democrats held here in Colorado, was a coalition with the Libertarian Party. Candidates signing the Libertarian Pledge, being willing to work with them and bring them into the party and to bring them into the politics of the Republican Party. Is that something that you are going to strive for? Have you already started doing that? Because that could make the difference between winning and losing a general election.
Again, I'm going to practice offset and not give you all of our strategies, but yeah, but no, we have some big news coming up next month.
Okay.
We're going to create a coalition of the willing. People that have never worked before with one another are going to start working with each other because they now see the light and they understand that these Marxist agendas that are plaguing our state, it's going to destroy us. And what you're going to start seeing, if we don't win, mark my words, you're going to see a mass exodus out of Colorado.
It's already started, man. I agree with you. It's going to get worse.
Yeah. It's going to get worse. And, and to the people, understand this. If we don't stop attacking our neighbors and start loving them in spite of whatever ideologies that they have, we'll never be able to come together. We talk about the military, we talk about foxhole politics. I have, because it's super cold, I have slept chest to chest down there with a dude who believed that there's no God, who was married to a man, who believes in crazy stuff that I'm like, I don't know how you wrap your mind around that. But we loved each other because we were like, hey, the only way that you and I are going to get back home is if we protect each other. We got to learn to start protecting each other.
And working together.
Yes.
So on that note, how do you suggest for not only just these legislatures that are in office that are at odds with each other, but a lot of people in this community, there is such a bad vibe. You know, it's very, very catty. It's very, you know, petty. How do you suggest we come together in order to support one another in this movement to make sure that we get the right people in office and we hold people accountable?
Okay, well, just for our community, it's the simple things. If you see someone trash can out on the street and it should be on the curb, help them out, put it back on the curb for them. If you see a mom who has 3 kids and she's struggling to put the groceries into the house, why don't you go over there and pick up the groceries for her and put it on her doorstep? You know, in politics, you know, let's say you pause it for a second. You know, I saw a dude the other day and he was his car shut down on the road. And how many people passing by? You know, me and one of my friends got out of our truck, went there, helped him out. Come to find out he had a bad battery, he couldn't afford it. My friend bought him a battery.
Oh, that was very
You know
thoughtful.
what I'm saying? That good act is going to follow somebody else. And as far as politics, we have to give both Republicans and Democrats the ability to divorce themselves from the far whatever they have. There are a few Democrats right now, actually, just to do some research, they've actually been vocal about the partisan ways that we have right now. And the reason why that they stay that way, just like that senator, is because, hey, look, it's not the people that's getting me in the office, it's the donor class.
Yeah.
It's the House representatives, it's the chair or whatever. If I don't do what they tell me, they're going to take me off of this subcommittee or this other committee. And especially if they're federal, but what that means is that if I do what my constituents tell me to do, and not the Speaker of the House or the minority party leader or whatever, that means that they can take me off of these committees and subcommittees. What that also means is that they can also now take away your livelihood, because how you make your money over there, unfortunately, is by having these connections in office. And then once you get out, your retirement plan is to be on boards and committees so you can go ahead and help people out. So it's the people. I don't blame politicians. You never blame the artist, you only blame the audience, because if the audience wasn't there, the artist wouldn't exist.
That's right. That's right. I also think we spend so much time in politics focusing on what divides us versus what brings us together. There's so many things that Republicans and Democrats actually believe in or believe together that they could be working on. Instead, when one party or another gains power, they tend to focus on the things that divide, the things that they don't work together on, that they can't agree on. It'd be nice to see legislation more focused on what we can agree on and what I wouldn't say the majority, because majority is mob rule, but the plurality of our citizens and our voters agree with as that's the policies.
80-20 politics. That's what you need to live in.
Yes, sir.
So we want to say shout out not only to a friend, but somebody who's in the audience who donated $20 to the Second Syndicate in the super chats. Is a friend of me, a friend to you, Josh Salem of Freedom First, Colorado.
Josh,
He
my
is
boy, Blue.
such a staunch patriot. If you guys aren't following him, go check him out, The Real Josh Salem on X. He has also been a guest on our show in the past. It was, I believe, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And go check out that episode and understand what he is doing with Freedom First Colorado. And he is really out there moving and shaking. So thank you so much, Josh, for everything.
In the military, just do a little bit of brag on him real quick. You know, working with him, we deployed together. A common sense guy, somebody that leaves his pride and ego at the door. I've seen him numerous occasions. I mean, me being on my side of the house and on his side of the house, you want to actually gauge a leader, look at their subordinates, look at their soldiers, and all of his soldiers were well taken care of. They had no praise for him, and you know, working with him, nobody was more professional, caring, honest, strict, and just had good forethought. So, hey, you out there, buddy? Hey, I appreciate you, brother. Let's go ahead and win this battle, man.
Oh yeah. All right.
He has been nothing but kind to us.
Yes.
And he actually approached us many, many moons ago and said, "Hey, Alicia, I really love what you're doing. I want to help you. I want to be involved. How can we work together?" And he made an effort to come down to meet with me. He met with Rosia. He met with Teddy. And we have been thick as thieves, and he has been very supportive. So it's really motivating for me to see that we have people in the community that are willing to step up. And it's becoming better. That's one of the things that I will say about the past couple years dealing with these ridiculous laws, dealing with these ridiculous politicians, is that it has brought out the best in some of the best leaders in this community. And we are uniting, we are talking, we are communicating, we are getting stronger, and we are supporting each other. And I'm loving seeing the fruition of what we begun to build start to manifest and present itself. So right on. Shout out to Josh.
True patriot, true friend, and Josh, I'm going to get you to one of these competition shoots coming up in the future, but you're not going to be able to dodge me forever.
Speaking of competition shoots, I just want to take a moment to say shout out to the third part of the second syndicate here, Rosia Collins. She shot this weekend in the I-68 Valkyries women's event, and she tore that steel
First time
down.
she's ever competed.
She took second place. I knew she was going to go there and put in that work, and that is exactly why she is such a pinnacle part of this organization. She is quiet, she is behind the scenes, but she is sweet as cyanide if you put her to the test, and that girl will take it down. So shout out to her for mopping the floor with the competition. I am very biased, and I'm very proud of her. So yay for Rosia. Yes. Let's get back into some of these questions that we have, because we have a ton of stuff for you.
Veteran community here in Colorado, huge. Probably one of the biggest in the country. I know we were talking a little bit about this earlier. I think the Springs is number 2 in the nation or something of that nature.
74% of our economy is veteran.
What is that, sir?
74%.
There you go. There you go. You know firsthand how hard it can be to transition from military to civilian life. And for a lot of veterans, it's very difficult. We also have an issue with veteran benefits, things of that nature. What is some of your plans to potentially support vets who are struggling with that transition to civilian lives, for employment, housing, anything that as governor you might have up your sleeve you're willing to share to help support veterans?
Absolutely. Well, one, shout out to Mark Carmel. I love them. I'm actually sitting on the board for the VBOC, Veteran Business Owner Committee. Ballot McLaughlin is a extraordinary, wonderful man. Any veteran out there that's struggling, please go out to Mark Carmel. Any business that needs to donate, it's getting close to the end of the fiscal year, please donate to Mark Carmel. They are a saving grace. They can help you with your rates when it comes to your disability, help you find jobs, even help you get, start your own business. There's really nothing in that building that they can't help you with. I want to just take that moment right there and shout out to Mark Carmel and Bob McLaughlin. Love them to death. I also sit on the military advisory committee with the Chamber of Commerce. So I've seen a lot, and there's two things. One, we need to get with our Congress member to ensure that every DoD contract that comes to Colorado, the primes and the Lockeeds and so forth, they're supposed to be giving about 30% of that contract to sub out to smaller businesses.
Yes.
They don't do that at all.
Interesting.
And it might not be their fault. I'm not saying it is their fault, but we got to start teaching people how to respond to RFIs. We got to start showing people how to get yourself registered as an LLC and all the other little small tricks of the trade. But more importantly, we have to start talking and helping our veterans, our soldiers, 2 years before they get out.
Yeah. Yeah.
It,
I
it
know
has
I
to
know
touch the human
personally
before.
I've done a lot with the skills program, which it helps a lot of people who are about to get out of the service to
Hmm.
move into that next phase of their life and acquire a skill that they can utilize to
Hmm.
make a livelihood. But
Yeah.
that's only 6 months to a year out, 2 years out, being better prepared. Definitely something, especially at the state level, if we could support a program like that, would be huge.
Well,
So
here's another thing too. There's billions of dollars that we don't even touch because so grant writing is one of the hardest things you can do because it's all
Yes.
subjective,
yeah.
right? What if we trim the fat in our government, right? And we can talk about the sovereign wealth fund and all that kind of jazz, but what if the state actually had a program where you go into it, where it's a small business course that you got to take or ranching course to take, but then they go to the federal government, we write these grants for you because you passed this course, right? And then we get that money to you, and now we subsidize healthy. We talk about that. We are a culture of over punishing, right, in order to correct.
Yes.
Whatever happened to over rewarding to stay in correction? In schools, we pay attention to only the kids that have a hard time, where the kid who's actually following the rules and doing right gets ignored
You got to
24
have
7.
carrot and stick. You've got to have punishment, but you also have to have merits. You have to have
Yes,
awards. Yeah,
I would rather have one stick and a whole barrel of carrots.
I
So
agree
you
with you.
don't even look at that stick. I don't want to go over there. I'm over eating my carrots, man. And so simple things like that. And then, we want to expand Colorado. We want to bring Colorado is the center of the union. Why aren't we the headquarters for distribution? Why
Agreed.
don't we have all these companies that come in, the cars, computers, and things that make it cheaper for us to even purchase, have it in the middle, and anything that's within the metropolis, all 80% of all state contracts go to small businesses.
We got to
And
cut
you
that
only
red
get
tape,
out of that
brother.
program once you make $1 or $2 million. We
Yeah.
have to be a state that supports each other.
Yeah, one of the big reasons is again the red tape here in Colorado, the barriers to entry to own a business. Trust me, as a business owner, I've experienced it. It's tough to do business, especially as a firearms business with all the extra regulations we now have in Colorado coming into effect
Don't
July
try to get a
1st.
business loan if you haven't been in business for 2 years and your monthly revenue is less than 10,000.
Yeah,
It's
it's
impossible.
it's impossible. And we should be especially helping our veterans who have served us and taken care of us. So there should be some type of program for them.
I don't understand it, and again, I do understand that there are a very small subset of veterans that go out there with their hands out like you owe me something.
Sure.
I agree that those do exist, right? But come on, man, these people raised their right hand with the knowledge that they could die.
Yes.
You know,
And a lot
deployed
did.
multiple times, living in the worst conditions,
Came back with
getting
horrendous
shot at,
injuries. I mean, we had Del Toro
PTSD,
on our show.
all you can think of. I mean, a lot of people don't
He
realize
gave it
this.
all.
And no one talks about this. If you spend more than 10 years in the military, you lose your family. Why? Because they learn to live without you. And so when you leave the military and you don't have your real family, you are lost. And so we have to start really advocating and championing programs to keep families together. When I say families, I'm talking about the ones that was forged through combat.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I love my family in Houston, but doing 20 years in the military, they learn to live without you. And so after you're there, after day 3, they're looking at you like, aren't you going somewhere? Like, who are you? We
Yeah.
love them to death, but we got to protect those who was willing to give the ultimate sacrifice to protect us.
Speaking of the ultimate sacrifice to protect us, one of the topics that is very near and dear to my heart that is also affecting the Second Amendment legislation here in Colorado is self-harm. It is, suicide.
Veteran suicide. Yeah.
Yeah. And in the state of Colorado, we established the Office of Gun Violence Prevention in 2021. That cost Colorado $3 million to establish this Office of Gun Violence Prevention. The first 2 years that they were in production or working order, they did a study about gun deaths in the state of Colorado. The first year, it was 75% related gun deaths were to self-harm, self-inflicted, right? The second year was 73%. And so they're using these numbers of self-inflicted gun violence to inflate the numbers to say that guns are a public health state of emergency.
They did that with the 3-day waits. They've done that with almost every gun bill that they've passed in the state legislature.
And they're taking those numbers and they're using them to indoctrinate the people of Colorado to tell them, hey, you know what, these tools are awful. Just by being near one, you're more inclined to harm yourself. What we're not talking about is that Colorado is also 47th out of 50 in the nation for mental health resources. The community that suffers the highest for that is first responders, military, and veterans. And the reason that is one, if you have a first responder who speaks up based on trauma or things that they're experiencing, because let's be real here, one of those calls that they can get or a place that they can be deployed, there could be mass trauma to family, to children, to women, to vulnerable societies, and they have to go in there and they have to do their job. And if they speak up and say, hey, I'm experiencing these feelings, they are red flagged. They can lose their job. They are basically punished for seeking mental health. And I want to be very clear to people out there, mental health is not a forever state. You can heal yourself. You can find healing. You can invest in yourself and do, change the way you feel about those things and find healing. What are we doing as a state in Colorado that we are prioritizing gun control, but we are not prioritizing the mental health and well-being of not only veterans, but our communities and our first responders? How is that something that you feel that you can tackle? And do you have that as an issue and an item that you want to remedy for the state of Colorado?
The short answer to that is yes. This is something that is nuanced, and I think that's also a concept that a lot of people have lost, is the ability to understand nuance. First and foremost, definitely would love to pass a law of transparency, where you don't lump everything into one in order to, champion something that is not necessarily a straw man, if you will, a false representation of an argument. That's number one. Two, we have to start creating more avenues for community success. Again, been in the military, and I can tell you, like many other veterans, if you go and tell them, I ain't feeling myself, man, that last deployment took it out of me, you're supposed to be a robot, or you're a firefighter, police officer, nurse, anybody who puts others before yourself. You're supposed to be a robot. And it's more than just legislation. It's also about, your fellow man or woman or whatever you want to call yourself. It's about shoulder to shoulder ethics. First responders, military veterans, and everybody, all the alikes, we are used to being the ones that come and save the day. But what happens when we need somebody to come and save us? And so just like when, we talk about bad policing and stuff like that, I tell people, so it's all part of a social contract, right? And that means that it takes two people to make that contract work. And so as we talk about the legislatures, we also need to talk about ourselves and look at ourselves and say, when was the last time I baked some cookies or helped somebody or saw someone struggling or just say hello? We come from Texas, and how many times you walk by somebody and you got to say hello?
Howdy.
Howdy. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. How you doing? I mean, you can go to any gas station and someone spark a conversation. You think that was your lost loved one.
That's right.
We got to get back to getting out of politics and start talking about the people, start being more personable versus
That
more
sense of
personal.
community that we've lost as a nation, and as a state especially. I'm with you. Man.
That's something that I was very happy to hear. You're making a lot of the wheels turn in my mind for me to think about how I can be more solution oriented. I know that we do a lot here, with not only the outreach for the Second Amendment and involvement in all these organizations and you doing what we can to preserve these rights, but You know, I do my best to lead and to be kind and have those conversations and be open, but it's very difficult, and I'm not making excuses for people by any means, but we as a society have become very prone to being mean when people extend a helping hand. And, you know, in concealed carry classes that I teach every weekend, it's unfortunate, but it's become to the point where what happens if you are a good Samaritan and you do you do lead with kindness and you do want to reach out to help somebody, you're jeopardizing your safety because you don't know if that person intends to do harm. And we have such an abundance of crime here in Colorado that these criminals are now playing on the goodness and the emotions and the kindness of people by, you know, coming and knocking on your door. These women are coming there and they're saying, hey, you know, someone's chasing me, help me. And you open your door, think you're going to help this woman, and she's there to house you. You know, she's working with a team of individuals that are there to break in your home. And I think that the way we change that is we start implementing harsher penalties for people that intend harm on others, because we've been very lax in that in
And
Colorado.
not just that, but promote people to carry, because an armed society is a polite society. You have less
Absolutely.
instances of things like that occur when you're armed and other people are armed as well. So, you know, to go back to the stereotypical statement there. But
Yeah. So how do we bring those mindsets and lead with reward to those people like ourselves that have been fighting and that have been pushing for these things when it comes to policy?
I would say start small. You know, every marathon, every race, every route march begin with one step. I'll give you a little story. So we're on X, and you know, it's one of my first, I guess, political posts or tweets, whatever you want to call it, X or whatever it's called now. There was a very, I would call her a liberal, but I'm gonna say she was a very confused young person, a young lady. And she was like, I would never vote for you, been at this and been at that, and yada, yada, yada. I said, yeah, that's cool. You know, Ben is a school teacher, superintendent, and all he did was close all the black schools and had the worst education. And we still have one of the worst schools, you know, in the union, honestly.
where
But
did all that pot money go, Josh? Just to bring that up, because wasn't
You
that
call it
supposed to go
pot.
to school funding? Shouldn't we have the
I don't know.
best schools in the
Everybody's
nation?
retired right now. That's why they don't know where it is, right? So,
You know how I know you're an old? Because you
I
call
don't
it
know,
pot.
right?
Oh, okay. Well,
That is a good question to ask. You know, why are we 25? What, we're almost $250 million shortfall,
yeah,
and yeah, and but what
Polis
is
has
it?
spent us into oblivion.
Yeah, almost $1.1 billion was given to the illegal immigrants and stuff like that.
Bingo.
And not to demonize them, they're still people too. But getting back to this young lady and how I got her, and it was funny. It's about 2A, right?
Okay.
Guns this and guns that and all this kind of stuff. And I had to explain to her, sweetheart, you know, you talk about women's rights and women's protection, women's suffrage and stuff like that. There's honestly no safer woman than a woman with a gun on her hip,
Mm.
you know?
You want to talk
Now,
about
as a
feminism?
society,
Carry a gun.
right,
You know.
carry a gun. And well, not them. The average woman is not like that. But for that subset, you want to be like men. Well, you know, don't pick only the negative traits of men to say that you're a man. You know, pick the prosperous ones, the productive, you know, traits of men. You know, and that also for us men too. You know, I long for the day that we men create our own little community-wide, statewide center where we stay lit up at night and we walk the streets, where we go walk around campuses. We got to stop going at people as my masculinity was here to dominate or use or even just use as a tyrannical force, but we need to become fathers again. We need to
Yes.
let people understand that it's okay to hug your son and kiss your son. It's all right to say, you know, hey, we had a hard day. You know, ladies, it's okay to be both strong, cool, and but yet soft. But getting back to the gun part of it, when we were talking about it, and I told her, I said, look, if you was a trans person, you're saying that you're, you know, allegedly are getting persecuted and you could die in the street. Well, I guarantee you, you're not going to die as much with a gun on your hip.
Nope.
If
Right.
you're walking late at night from campus and going home, right, you are probably going to get home pretty safe everybody knows, Susan got that 9 mil on her hip, bro. So
Well,
or like the video, got something in my purse. You know
well,
what I mean?
you look at organizations like the Pink Pistols and things of that nature that are LGBTQ organizations which are pro-gun. There's a reason they're pro-gun. It's so that they can protect themselves because they're generally targeted individuals. They're generally people that may be
Change the
pointed out.
messaging. Just change the messaging from you're taking my rights to let me help you get more.
Yes.
You're not taking my rights. I'm actually helping you protect yourself. I'm helping you to live in a more free zone, safety zone society. See, messaging is everything. And just going to somebody saying you're taking this from me already put them on the side of difference. But instead of me saying that, saying, like I told her, I said, well, look, sweetheart, it's not about me trying to preserve some old traditional standard of masculinity or cowboyism or whatever. It's also because I have 4 sisters. I have a beautiful little, perfect little girl that one day I have to make sure that she's trained up and able to survive out there when I'm not there. Although she's going to be living with me until she get married. But even with that being
Yeah, my
said,
daughters aren't able to date until they're married. That's the rule of my house.
exactly right. Even when they're married, we're married. I'm right there with them. You know what I mean? But we gotta start. We gotta be able to start finding a way to reach these people with care. Because here's the thing: it's like Bambi, right? You can't just rush at Bambi, right? You gotta live a little treat here. Hey, how you doing? And that's what they did with the military. Yeah, it was drill sergeants and all that kind of stuff, but let me show you the way. Let me usher you the way without making you feel like you're lesser than or lower or any kind of belittling. We have to change our messaging, and we can talk like this amongst ourselves, but you have to understand your audience.
Yes.
So I have actually been deemed appropriate and approved by the Pink Pistols here in Colorado to train them for concealed carry and permit them for concealed carry through my company, Concealed Carry Class of Denver. And what I have found is that in the 3-4 classes that I'm hosting specifically for this group of people, is that the majority of them think just like we do. They just want to be left alone. They want to go about their business, live how they want to live. It is the extremists on their end also that are force feeding that narrative to them, that if they do not go along with these really, really radical mindsets of, borderline pedophilia and, infringing on, protected spaces for women, that they cannot be accepted in their community. So they're being ostracized for not embracing the radical leftist ideologies, which the sword can cut both ways, because we have that from the extreme right as well, that if you don't hate these people and if you don't persecute them and treat them as lesser than, you are not, MAGA enough. And there has to be some common ground that we come to realize that, everybody deserves a right to stay alive.
And I just want to add to that a little bit, especially here at the Second Syndicate. I don't care what your politics are as long as you're 2A.
Yep.
At the end of the day, I think the Second Amendment is the only thing that protects the rest of your constitutional rights. Without the Second Amendment, you don't have any protections to enforce or protect those other civil liberties guaranteed to you by the Bill of Rights. The Second protects the rest. It's got the back of the rest, in my opinion. So at the end of the day, I think the 2A, when you go to that ballot and you vote, that should be one of the most important issues to look at. And it doesn't see color, it doesn't see gender, it doesn't see affiliation, it doesn't see politics. It's about the right to defend yourself. It's about the right to defend your livelihood. And that's the 2A, in my opinion. But
I wonder what will happen if we start talking about 2A as a self-empowerment movement.
It should be.
We do.
Yeah, that's how we like to talk about it. Is it's self-empowerment.
But in the macro sense,
we would love to.
If we start changing our delivery, and for anybody out there listening, don't go tell somebody about 2A like you're gonna get your gun and keep your rights. No, don't do that. Just hey, look, protect yourself, empower yourself. That's all this is.
You've got the extremists on the left side of the politics who want to defund police, for example. Well, who's going to protect you? You better get a gun. You better exercise your Second Amendment right and learn how to protect yourself, because with no police, good luck.
Living in wealthy families. Because I had one dude in class said, "We don't need soldiers." I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "We would never." He's like, "It's like Batman. Batman created Joker. Yeah, but there still was the mafia. There still was thugs. I mean, how his parents died? Like, come on."
Crime was still rampant in Gotham City. If we're getting into this,
That doesn't
oh,
make
we're gonna
any
nerd out. We better change topics here, bro.
Oh.
You
know, one of the things that I lead with in my class is self-defense is the highest form of self-love. I want people to express to themselves and to their loved ones that your job every day is to get home to your loved ones. However that may look, it may not look like what you think it is. It may look like fighting. It may look like running. It may look like hiding. It may look like being passive and saying, "Hey, you know what, dude? My bad. I didn't see you there. Go right ahead." If he's upset that you cut in front of him in line, let him go, and have that peacekeeper mentality that, you know, we're peaceful. We're not harmless, but in order to love yourself enough to stay alive and prioritize your safety. And that's exactly how we want to introduce this lifestyle to people, is that you are precious. You're one of one. You're irreplaceable. And we want you to embrace the ability that you have to protect that.
Absolutely.
We should even have it in schools.
Oh.
We should have self-defense. We should have jiu-jitsu. We should have boxing in schools. We should have gun safety courses.
Thank you. That was actually going to be in my next section. I was going to do a lightning round and ask you, you know, Arkansas, they just passed the law where now they're teaching gun safety in school. We used to have, you know, shooting classes in school, gun safety taught in school. We didn't have mass shootings at those times. We had a better understanding and respect. We didn't have kids finding an improperly stored firearm and doing something stupid with it or ignorant with it, because ignorance didn't exist, because education was there. So that's huge to hear you say that.
The training wheels. I mean, there's a lot of psychologists out there that will say that it's beneficial for you to roughhouse with your toddlers, because they actually find what hurts, right? They can draw a line of what I should do, what I shouldn't do. And, you know, a lot of times when you create, I would tell anybody, if you really want to understand our society, there is a famous study, I forgot about the name, the guy, but look up Rat Utopia or Mice Utopia, and tell me if that is not our society today. Mm-hmm. We have to allow people the space to grow. We have to allow them the space to be wrong. We have to allow people the space to learn. And that's what our campaign, again, is about, because you don't know. There's some Democrats out there that hate to see what's going on, but because we only pay them $40,000 a year, and the only way they can make ends meet is by going back and forth to the Capitol for the per diem. You know, that's a whole another issue that we can actually solve. Because we need younger people in our government, you know, calling out all millennials and Gen Zs out there. We need us in this. Only us can fix us. But we got to start giving people the grace. We got to start learning what grace is.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to go into we only got about 10 or 15 minutes left. We're going to go in a little bit of a lightning round here, but I want to make sure from our audience tonight, if you have any questions for Josh that you'd like to ask him, put it into the comments and we'll bring it up here after this lightning round. But go ahead and ask your questions now if you have any, and we'll make sure we get to that here in a second. But we're going to do a quick lightning round on 2A policies. I just want a simple yes or no from you on support or veto, essentially. Let's do that.
For it.
If I don't know, I'm going to ask you to explain.
What's that?
If I don't know, I'm going to ask you to explain.
Okay. Red flag laws. Support or against?
What are those again?
Red flag, where you can report a neighbor, for example, and they get their guns taken away.
Let me help you.
There you
what
go.
it is, it's a way that they're called ERPO laws, extreme risk protection orders. They were proposed back in, I believe, 2019, and have been snowballing out of control in Colorado legislature ever since. It's a way
basically
that
takes away due process.
Law enforcement, military, teachers, and spouses or people you live with can red flag you to the government. They can bypass your due process, pass an emergency confiscation order where they can come to your home and confiscate your guns and your ammunition.
It does go against due process. Literally, it skips the court process. They take your guns away from you without a trial.
And then it's up to you as
Yeah,
the
there you go.
respondent to prove that you're worthy to get your property back.
Most of these I figured, and sorry I didn't give you a better description on that, but yeah, red flag laws, we're against that. Okay. Eliminating excise tax on ammo and firearms. That's the tax that went into effect a couple months ago, which is a 6.5% tax on all guns and ammo in Colorado.
Yeah.
Yeah, against that. All right.
All right.
Constitutional
I would actually
carry,
say
no
sales
license
tax on that.
required. What's that? I'm sorry, Josh.
I'd probably say no sales tax on ammo.
Hey, I mean, we just saw in Florida that during the summer, which is when the industry is slow, they did a sales tax free month where basically it incentivizes people to go and purchase guns and ammo during the
I'll
slowest.
actually raise taxes on 3M masks. I get so tired of seeing these people coming up with their little. They still wear masks. Like, let's raise taxes on that.
I like that. I like that. Constitutional carry, no license required to carry a gun. You good on that? All right, support. Good.
I'm from Texas, but keep going.
We already talked about the school safety, which you're for, which is great.
Parents' right to choose vaccinations and educational content in schools.
Not a
Yay or
two-way
nay?
issue, but we can ask.
The right
Yeah.
of the people. Yes, it'll be right for people, right? I don't see anything wrong with that.
Okay. And the other ones we actually already covered, so we're good
Yeah.
on that.
Yay.
Carl, is there
Sorry if I made that a
anything?
little difficult for y'all.
Awesome.
I really enjoy this conversation. We did our best not to really delve into having too much conversation with you before this because we wanted to give you the courtesy of getting to know you here and it be authentic for our viewers so they see that we're not just here pushing an agenda. We want to be objective and we want to have objective candidates come here and showcase who they are. And
Questions?
I've been very pleased so far with the man that you have proposed. This is probably a very odd question, but this whole time I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, his wife must be really buff. Like I'm like, I bet you his wife's really
Oh,
buff.
she's a brick house. She's a
She's
brick
what?
house.
That's
She's
fine,
the
Carl.
brick house, man. This girl wakes up at 3 o'clock in the morning. She works out. I mean, she deadlifts. I think I think her highest deadlift was like 300. You can't
kinda
tell because
figured.
she's still like super like
Never mind.
18, whatever like that. But my wife can get it.
Hey, that's
There
a
you go.
beautiful thing. All men should think their wife is the coolest woman alive. So
No, I
before
ain't say
we
all that
sign
because
off,
I don't show.
before we sign off, we always have 2 questions that we ask our guests. Well, actually 3. One is, what is your everyday carry if you want to share that with us? What is your holy grail gun if price or, policy did not matter? And the third is a quote to leave us with that you would like to share with people as your final thought.
So we'll start with the first one. Your
Well,
EDC.
I always was partial to the Glock.
Okay.
Yeah, right. I'm always partial to the Glock. But for the average person, I would tell them get like a 9mm, something like that, with a safety because just saying this is my safety for most people won't work. I'm a huge fan of the AR-15.
America's rifle.
Well, it depends. Like if for home defense, always a shotgun, right? For me at least. But if I'm doing CQB, I'm doing a short barrel AR-15, side hand rail, extended mag. That's what I'm using. Quote. To fully understand and appreciate legacy is to plant a seed, knowing that you will never enjoy the fruit that it bears.
Oh,
That's good. I like that.
I
Awesome.
dig that. That's one of the best quotes I think we've had
That's
so
deep,
far.
bro.
So
That's deep.
kudos to that. You got a little tear in Teddy's eye.
Yeah.
He's such a
Well,
sensitive guy.
Well, Josh, thank you so much for coming on tonight, man. We look forward to seeing everything that's going to go on through the candidacy, through the election process. We look forward to supporting you. We hope to God we can get you in office, man, that you could be the governor of Colorado and fight back against some of this anti-2A stuff we've been experiencing. Yeah, man, thank you so much for coming out tonight. Thank you, everybody that watched tonight. We'll be back in 2 weeks on Wednesday at 6 p.m.
Yes, and tell everybody where they can find you, Josh, before we close out.
Oh, yeah. Good point.
Yes, please look at us at Joshua Griffin 4CO. Please donate. Don't complain about politicians being owned by a donor class if the people don't donate to the candidates. So please donate for us, and trust me, with us, we will have a campaign of legacy.
Thank you so much,
Absolutely.
Josh. God bless.
Absolutely.
Take care.
God bless.
We wish you the best of luck, and we're here rooting for you, man. Thank you
Bless
for
you.
joining
Thank
us
you.
tonight.
We'll see you guys in a couple weeks on Alicia's birthday episode special. All right.
See
God
y'all
bless. Have a
July
good night.
9th, everyone.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Good night. Yay.
Our camera died. Did we still get the audio though? Okay, cool.
Okay,
Our
awesome.
camera died the last like 15 seconds, I guess, which is fun. But we still got everything else, man. So thank you
Always
for coming on
interesting
tonight,
here.
brother. Had a great time with you. If you're free on the 4th and you want to come join us out here in the parking lot, brother, come on and get some good
Hell yeah,
food.
I'll be there.
Yeah,
Heck
man,
yeah.
come on out.
Um,
Come on out. We'll get you up on stage, man.
What's
Get you
the
a little
best way
speech
for us
going.
to contact you, Josh?
Here's my personal number.
I've got it. I actually have it from Josh, so I'll pass it on afterwards here to her. But
Okay.
yeah,
Josh and Josh. Perfect.
absolutely. Thank
Well,
you, brother.
we'd love to have you out. I think it would be a great opportunity for you to mingle with the people, and they could see exactly what you're bringing to the table. Because I've been very impressed with your demeanor and how you handle yourself, the way you speak about things, and I've been very
Well, thank you.
unencouraged
Just
to
trying to
support
motivate
anybody.
everybody.
So you've refreshed my hope in the future. Awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you, Josh. We appreciate you, man. Have a good night, and we'll talk to you here soon, brother.
Take care, man.
Anything we can do to help you out as well
All right,
with your
bye-bye.
campaign, let us know. We'd be happy to help you, okay?
Too easy. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank
God
you,
bless.
Josh. Good night.
God bless. Good night.
I like him.
Yeah, me too. I think he's a good option. I think he's a really good option. All right, so it's a good- I have meetings to start. How dare you?